Ooh, Don in London, hello. It's April the 6th, 2013. My video's all about recovery from addiction to either substances or behaviour. I'm Don, I'm an alcoholic in recovery and have been for a while. And recovery is one day at a time, because any longer than that is trying to promise myself something which is impossible, that I will never drink again, because I don't know. If I don't look after myself, if I don't understand what's going on and the need for help, I might find myself back with my old best friend and drink. I hope not, because I know reality is far better than some fantasy fueled by alcohol or any other substance for that matter. Life is better, real, living reality, good, bad and ugly. So why have I come to this opinion? Having spent many years under the influence, it became self-harm and killing me in the end, because I just could not stop doing something which would kill me, and I had to be revived more than once because of what I did to myself and because I couldn't stop on my own. So I needed help, and professionals got me dry, and then there was discussion amongst professionals which I shall mention later. Some said, now you're recovered after a couple of years, you can do what you want, you can go back to drinking if you like, it won't be as before, you'll know what to do. And another said, if you go back to drinking, you'll be mad. And I tend to believe the second person. And at the time I was attending another National Health Service clinic not far from my medical practice, where these two people were in conflict with their opinions, all about how not to drink ever again, doing it through thinking, my cognitive thinking abilities. Everything in me said it's logical never to drink again. On the other hand, I could think I could. So how do I keep sober one day at a time? Well, not on my own. I needed help and still need help to keep on track. So there are 12 principles I can apply to myself, 12 steps to live well, and I learned these in a fellowship called AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I never speak for AA because everyone in the fellowship speaks for themselves where they choose to, and anonymity is sacrosanct because we need to find out who we are so we can then deal with who we are and live a more fruitful life, hopefully. So the fellowship of AA, I don't speak for it, but I share how the steps work for me, the 12 steps, and hopefully that I keep sober today, even though I am challenged with mechanical problems in the house. My plumbing is not working, the house plumbing, not me. My plumbing seems to be okay just at the moment. So what is AA and why is it important? It's the only place I've ever learned to understand my feelings, my emotions, and the spiritual journey we can all have, whether you believe in God or not. The spiritual journey for me is knowing my feelings and how to cope with reality today. That's how I see it. And you don't have to see it that way. It's how you see the world. That's what's important. And without the substance or the addictions getting in the way, life does become more clear. And then we see the good, bad and ugly of it as well. And we learn how to cope with good, bad and ugly. So what is AA? It's very similar to other fellowships. AA, I feel, was the first one who really nailed it. So I stick with AA. And I'm sure I've got other addictions I can look at through time. But AA is the main one which keeps me sober and reality on my doorstep. So AA is this. This is the AA preamble, which is shared at the beginning of every meeting, and it goes like this. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. So a fellowship where we share experience, strength and hope. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking, and even then I didn't have that when I first got to AA. But something happened. I found a bunch of people, some of whom I knew. They were my neighbours, people I knew from different clubs I went to. and they're all sober. So the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop. And I guess I got there eventually. There are no dues or fees for AA membership, so it's free. But we are self-supporting through our own contributions. So we scrape by, and we never have more than we need. Otherwise, money becomes an issue. So we don't... we live from week to week, month to month, in terms of paying the rent and paying for tea, coffee and biscuits and some literature and some other bits of service that go on. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to go engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. However, every single person in AA can belong to a sect, can belong to a denomination, can do politics, can be parts of organisations and institutions, and can engage in controversy, endorse or oppose anything. So you be what you want to be. Free from the burden of drink, so you can be yourself and join whatever suits you. But fellowship is about this. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So what you see is what you get on a daily basis in the groups and meetings that you may attend if you become part of fellowship. And you'll find that everybody has their own idea about how life ought to be, including me. So whatever I say is a suggestion, and I share the truth and opinions I have about how my life works. And hopefully maybe there's something useful in there too. What's useful to me are these 12 steps, 12 principles of living. And in April I talk about step 4, which is the fearless moral inventory, or self-appraisal of what happened and why it's important to know it and deal with it. So we deal with the wreckage of the past and then move on. But we don't forget it, and that's what I wanted to emphasise today. So April 6, 2013, my notes. I've had to make it in big writing because my eyes can be a bit fuzzy due to another chronic ailment I have. So April 6, 2013, the fearless inventory. A thorough self-appraisal is often seen as clearing the wreckage of the past. Clearing the wreckage, a self-appraisal of the who, what, when, where, how and why things happened. Understanding why life turned out the way it did and our part in it. It helps to understand our situation now. It certainly is not about forgetting, and it's not about ignoring the past. It is about changing from a life of fear, pride and ego, which kept us locked up. I was frightened of real life at the end, and ego and pride stopped me from asking for help. So it's no wonder I had to be revived, because I thought it better never to wake up. That's where I got to. So letting go fear, pride and ego to a life where we can have courage to change, faith in doing the next right thing, and building our confidence to keep on learning the truth of how we live today. And I assure you, without a drink, it's quite interesting. Well, mine has become quite interesting. I've got some of the old interests back, which I never thought I'd ever be able to do again, because I had absolutely no capacity for life and living at the end of my drinking. Fearless, ? Yeah. Living to the truth, courage to change. Faith and confidence can keep on working well in the company of like-minded individuals. So I did need some sort of fellowship or something where I got to see and be with people who were sober. I remember someone saying that every time, this was within fellowship some years ago, someone saying that every time they opened their mouth, a lie seemed to drop out as swiftly as the truth was lost. We don't want to hurt people, and we don't want to be hurt by people. And sometimes it may seem better to be silent or to share a lie which accommodates others. Accommodating the views of other people can really undermine your own truth. And if I hadn't had fellowship to go to and say, listen, this person's saying this, my one doctor's saying this, I'm recovered, and another doctor says you're still mad as a hatter, and drinking would not be a good idea. It wasn't quite that stark with the mad as a hatter bit. I'm embellishing. So the truth was, one said you're still an alcoholic and don't drink, and the other one said you're recovered, you can do what you like. So if I'd been a bit younger in sobriety, or had not had the experience of not being able to stop, I might have said, oh, well, thank you very much, doctor. I'll have a pint of beer and a shot of heroin. Not that I ever had heroin, but it opens the door these days, or would do, to what's the swiftest way to get out of it. And the knowledge I've learned is that some of the drugs are just quicker, but alcohol is my principal problem. It would just lead into other ones, probably. Because once I'm on the downward path, how on earth do I stop myself? Well, there is an answer, which is to come back after a relapse. And it's horrible doing that. I did that, not in such a dramatic way, because at the beginning I was off and on when it came to coming to AA. It was just part of a daily ritual, go to an AA meeting and get a bottle of vodka on the way home, and then wonder why nothing was happening to improve my situation, because I was putting no effort in at all. That was the reason why. But this thing of lies drop out faster than the truth, because sometimes it's easier to just go along with things. And I remember that's what somebody said. It really impacted on me, obviously. We don't want to hurt people, and we don't want to be hurt by people. And sometimes it may seem better to be silent, or to share a lie which accommodates. And accommodating the views of other people can really undermine your own truth. I cannot suggest what is right for you. I can't. It wouldn't be right. I do know what is right for me, and sometimes it makes life very difficult telling the truth, as I see it, because the truth of me, I can share this and express it with feeling. The truth of anyone else that I judge is not helpful to me or them. So I do make judgments. Oh, I'll keep out of their way, they're a bit tough and unrelenting in their beliefs, and I don't want to be like them. The truth of anyone else, yes, it's that stuff that belongs to them. But if we are asked about the truth, how we answer is as it may be in the moment of now. So, I don't know, some people worth walking round because they are violent and hurtful, either because they are verbally abusive or because they are physically frightening. I mean, I'm a big chap, and a lot of the younger, smaller people worry me because I can't run away. Nobody said it was going to be easy, and that's true. Nobody said it was going to be easy. But it's a relief not to have to drink again. Years. I don't know, I did it. I couldn't have done it on my own. I have deep gratitude for the help and support of fellowship, and this is a two-way process. Sometimes my thoughts and opinions and beliefs, when asked, I do share the truth as I see it. You know, for me, atheist, agnostic or believer is not the issue, it's living to the truth of now. It is only true to me when it comes to opinions and beliefs, and I need to respect everyone and they have their own outlook. And this is the beauty of fellowship. Nobody is trying to convert anyone into a belief system which is not right for them, except maybe sober's better. And if they do, usually they get short shrift from their fellows who get their toes trampled on. You're allowed to be a Buddhist, you're allowed to be a Roman Catholic, you're allowed to be a Hindu, you're allowed to be a Muslim, you're allowed to be yourself with your own opinions and beliefs. You're allowed to be an atheist, you're allowed to be an agnostic, you can be someone, well, all I can say is I believe in the truth, love and wisdom of now. Not my version of truth, not my version of love. It's the universal truth of what's happening, universal unconditional love, and the wisdom we learn in the moment of now. That's where it all happens now, and if God is anywhere working through people, that will be true. Well, why else would why and where else would God be? And it's not for me to try and define God, because I can't. Nobody is trying to convert anyone into a belief system which is not right for them. So fellowship is about sobriety, and you hear about everybody else's belief system, and you will hear some groups who have the joys of recovery, and they don't ever have a bad day because it's always a learning day. Well, life is good, bad and ugly, so if you're not feeling the ugliness of it, there's something wrong with you, I may suggest. But you might say, well, it's ugly, but I'm happy about it. I don't know that that is a true way to live. So you find different, I suppose, offshoots from fellowship, which seem to have a different way of looking at the world. It's not for me to judge if it's working for them and they're sober. But I can't live half my feelings and suppress the rest. That's what got me into trouble in the first place. It is so important to be respectful. I learn more about truth every day in our emotional and spiritual journey, which is what the fellowship is all about, emotional and spiritual. Feelings working in the moment of now and coping is my suggestion. What was true yesterday is not necessarily true today. The fearless moral inventory helps me learn about the truth, and the truth can be good. The truth can feel quite bad, and the truth can reveal quite ugly things. Sorry, I missed out the bad in my writing. That's an omission of me and my typing rather than anything else. Open, honest and willing, letting go fear, saying I'm fearful of what I used to be like. Pride and ego stopped me from talking about it. Letting go fear, pride and ego was essential, and still is essential today. Sometimes the quiet life will undermine everything. Sometimes everything depends upon the truth in the moment of now. And when we are at war with ourselves over the truth, like Winston Churchill suggested, the first casualty of war is truth. So we have to stop being at war in our heads and maybe say these things are important. And the first step in recovery is admitting and accepting that we are powerless over alcohol, and that if we drink, life is unmanageable all over again. I do believe this to be true. Why wouldn't it be true? I've been there too many times, years ago, trying to sort my life out, and I couldn't sort it out on my own. I'm still in touch with a friend who was in fellowship some years ago, now living in a faraway country, and still working out whether they are an alcoholic. They still think logically that they're in control. They are an alcoholic, or just that they're fed up with the world and the world has done them down. This is a person who was pretty well off, and then the whole thing went to hell in a handbasket because of their drinking habits. Still believing, even though I have said this to the contrary, that my life was easier, this is what they believe. It was easier for me to give up drink, and the decision to give up drink by me was the only sane thing to do. And they base this on the fact that I have type 1 diabetes. I didn't have type 1 diabetes for the first few years of recovery. I got it as a consequence of being alive long enough to get it. So even though I have said it many times now, the response that I get by email is easier. It is easier for anyone else trying to give up drink. That for some it's easier to give up drink than others. Well, I believe this to be a myth. If we are addicts, each person's struggle to find sobriety is as difficult as the next person's. Otherwise there would be no fellowship, if you could just do it on your own. And some people do get to sober on their own through force of will. But you know what, living with that force of will, it constrains emotions, because it's suppressing the feelings. Addicted. And step one, to admit and accept and be responsible for what happens next, is the hardest of all. If we have truly accepted and do so on a daily basis, and keep faith, confidence, and have courage to change, anything is possible. Anything is possible, because reality and living reality is far better without a cloud in our heads and the fantasy of power over addiction. Once we're free of this thing of we can control it, we are free, because we don't do it anymore, because it won't improve reality, will it? It will just suppress our feelings about reality and not deal with our feelings about reality. Foggy, like a lot of people, and I don't blame them either, because life is shit some of the time. And in the first couple of years of recovery, because of the way my medical practice works, rarely do we see the same doctor twice in a row. At the time I was attending another outpatient clinic as well in Soho, London, to learn all the cognitive, that's the thinking ways to keep sober. In my medical practice in Chelsea, one doctor considered that alcoholism was a lifelong disease, and I agree with them, and did. And this was an old doctor who had seen many patients in recovery, and many addicts still flailing and at odds with the world. They couldn't get to grips with it. The younger doctor demanded that I accept I was recovered and did not need any further help. When I say younger, they're about 30-ish, drop-dead gorgeous female, and I wanted to believe her. If two doctors cannot agree on the disease itself when they are working side by side, and at the same time I am attending, or was attending, another clinic to help me with my thinking and drinking potential, no wonder I was able to make a good choice, which was agree with the old doctor, keep on going to the Soho clinic to improve my thinking abilities around the subject of alcohol, and stick with fellowship, where it was never about thinking, really. It was never about thinking when I actually realised that the fellowship is an emotional and spiritual fellowship to improve my ability to cope with reality. It doesn't actually say that anywhere, actually. It was about dealing with my feelings and actions to keep sober one day at a time. And these conflicts and opinion outside fellowship, I am grateful to have taken notice of fellowship and get the freedom of choice back into my life. I'm also grateful for the older doctor, but it was the older doctor who had a fantasy about me not having type 1 diabetes for a year. So what do you make of that? Doctors are as fallible as other humans if they have prejudice about where you're coming from. And why would a younger doctor want me to be recovered when even European courts agree that addiction is a disease? Why would somebody not agree with that? Because it's got something to do with ethics and freedom, and also blaming people. So in fellowship we learn blame is worthless as a commodity, putting the blame on other people. We have our part to play in what happens to us, and it's not good. Sometimes we face the worst, but a drink isn't going to make it better. Anyway, it's been going on for a few years now, recovery, and this is the point. Understanding the brutal truth of who we are, it becomes a truth we can cherish over time, and we don't have to fear it. The truth of who we are. From a black and bleak and desolate place some call hell, we can find redemption. If only we can overcome our own self-prejudice, self-harm, and learn how to clear the wreckage of the past. It may seem a brutal exercise, but until we see our part in what happened in this step 4, until we see our part in what happened and accept the truth of what we did, and consequences, of course, there are consequences, it will always be difficult to learn the truth of now. Even when it is bleak, it is far better than the fantasy of the past. I can say this for myself, and I understand it now, but it was horrible to look back at the loss and desolation caused by alcohol over the years. Disappointment in myself and what happened. No wonder that anyone anywhere asking for help. I hope there is a hand out there to be offered in friendship to anyone suffering from addiction, and through fellowship face to face. It must be the best way, because there's nothing in it for the other person. It's freely given, freely received. And for those who you find might want to manipulate or control, follow natural instincts. Follow your natural. Say, for example, you are attracted to another human being in a sexual way. They are not going to be the best person to give you an outlook about the 12 steps, because you're in the wrong frame of mind. So in fellowship we say, stay away from that for a bit, and let's see if we can get you, let's see whether we can help you with what's important, being sober, and then you can go back to your natural instincts afterwards. They won't go away. In fact, they'll be quite extreme, because you're vulnerable when you're new, because the feelings come back not to haunt us, but they can feel like they're haunting us, and we want to fix ourselves. And of course the best way to fix ourselves is with love, because that's what fellowship's all about. And the problem with that is we mistake lust for love, or we can do. I certainly know I did. I was very lusty about all these beautiful women in recovery, and thought, wow, well, what have I been missing? And of course they were very wise and stayed away from newcomers like me, unless of course they had an addiction which they hadn't dealt with. But these things we learn in fellowship. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's trudging a road of destiny. So it is a good day to be responsible and share a message of experience, strength and hope. We never know. We open the door to a new way of life and hope in fellowship today. And it doesn't have to be in fellowship. Sometimes we bump into people, and for the most extraordinary reasons they tell us their life story, and maybe we share something of ours and how we coped with the transition from being an addict to a recovering addict or alcoholic. We never know. Sometimes we just make a difference, just a bit. Not to be like us, but for a person, the whole point is to be yourself, free from addiction. And I like fellowship. I love the people in it. We're all broken down and building up, breaking down and building up. If we have a mini nervous breakdown every day, we don't have to have a massive nervous breakdown at some point. But, addiction is a breakdown in reality and not being able to cope with now. I prefer coping with now. What helps me is learning the can do, can't do, and wisdom to know the difference. That's where I get the truth from. And it comes in the form of the serenity prayer, which is shared at the end of every meeting. Or some people, they do the Lord's Prayer, but that's another part of it for someone else. I just like the serenity prayer because it's not conditional in believing in a particular religion, but it's common sense. It's profound. So here we go. To God, or in my case, the truth, love and wisdom, universal truth, love and wisdom of now, which is an exhortation. I want to find the truth, love and wisdom of now. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It can only be today. The truth of today, the love of today, the wisdom growing in the day. Oh, that's good. Enough.